where best friends and next-door neighbors, Willow and Lillian, spill the tea on murder, mysteries, and other things that go bump in the night. So get your favorite teacup ready, and let's get into it. Welcome to Cruelty Podcast. This is Lillian, and with me is Willow.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm going to do my best.
She's having a rough time.
I'm going to do my best today. So I don't know if y'all recall, like the last episode that me and Willow did. I said, I have hypomania sometimes with ADHD, and it's great when I'm in a good mood. It's not great when I'm in a bad mood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you told them all about what's going on.
Yeah. Vaguely.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
need to
now
talk
her
about it too much.
Facebook is down.
It's gone.
It's gone.
And that was my sole livelihood.
Yeah. That's how she made her money.
It is how I made. It's how I sell my art.
Mm-hmm.
And if I owe you art and you're listening, and the reason I haven't talked to you or answered you is that I fucking can't. And since my brain is soup, I don't remember things very good. I am forgetting things. Please, for the love of God, email me.
Yeah.
My email is in the description of this podcast. I don't actually think anyone who listens, I know one person, but I'm in contact with them. But otherwise, yeah, just email me and be kind and patient.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have no money now. Maris had to get a job, which is fine.
But it still sucks.
But we're waiting to get paid. And in addition,
It's just bullshit. It's just bullshit. And it's just so creepy that it's happening during Stalker month. And I can't get over that fact. It's just way
it's not my
too
favorite.
Do.
But it's okay because I'm moving on. Anyway.
So this Stalker case
Tell me all about it.
Fucking nuts.
All right.
Fucking nuts. So this is the case of Cari Farver. Not very many trigger warnings other than it's just really insane. I guess stalking, obviously. Threats of violence, arson.
Blackmail, perhaps? Any of that?
No blackmail.
Okay.
No blackmail. Just a lot of stalking, a lot of creepiness, a lot of threats of violence and things like that. There is a brief mention of abuse towards children. And a brief mention of like substance abuse, but not too much.
Gotcha.
So this case is kind of similar to the baby reindeer case, but it has, in my opinion, way more twists and turns and just insanity. Netflix did a docuseries on this case called Lover, Stalker, Killer.
Oh.
It's a really good series.
I queued that up and almost watched it. I'm glad I did
You should definitely watch it after.
I will after. Yeah.
Because I really like some cases, the investigators and the people that work on the investigation team, like this case in particular, I was just drawn to them. Like they're fucking adorable characters, honestly. Like two of the guys that take over the case towards the end, they're like best friend detectives together. And one of them was describing the other, and he used a word that I hadn't heard in a really long time. And I know that this will strike a chord with you, Lillian. But he said that his best friend and coworker was basically a metro cowboy. And I hadn't heard anybody say metro in so long.
Metrosexual.
Yes, I love a good metrosexual man.
The reason Willow has... I don't know if I actually told you this.
I can't remember.
I have a story about
this.
So my dad... Oh, God. My dad is a very conservative, like bird watching, Civil War enjoying, fly fishing guy.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
He's always worn this like a high school football coach's outfit.
Yes.
Khaki short.
Yes.
New Balance shoes.
Tucked in with the belt.
Tucked in, pulled up to his nipples. His head is big and blocky. And he is a ridiculous person.
Yes. Yes.
Well, in the early aughts, him and my mom got a divorce, thank the Lord. And he went through a phase. Yes, my dad went through a metrosexual phase, like Chris Gaines and Garth Brooks. That's what it was
he very
like.
Proud of himself?
Oh, yes. Okay, so he had a little soul patch, which is hilarious. He got highlights in his hair.
Oh,
yeah. We got a real slim fit leather jacket.
Wow. Did he watch What Not to Wear?
Oh, he wouldn't have gone that far.
Oh, this feels like a what not to wear episode.
No, but this is what he was feeling. He was feeling himself.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then he got eggplant colored Mazda Miata convertible.
Of course he did.
And, well, I put a rainbow sticker on it. Yeah.
I'm proud of you.
He didn't notice for a real long time until everybody at his work, he was a teacher, were just like, is there something you want to tell us? And he was like, what? Oh, and the license plate said Mr. Zoom.
Wow.
He's not like that anymore. He got over that phase real fast because everyone did laugh at him.
Yes, good. Good for everyone.
It made me uncomfortable.
Yes.
That's my story, and we may continue now.
For those who are too young to know what a metrosexual person is,
It's just a well-groomed man.
it literally was something that we made up in the early 2000s. It's not real. And it literally is just a man who is straight and cis and likes to groom, basically. Likes to do their hair, likes to dress nice and clean. And we had to create an
And they're
entire
like, he's
sexuality.
possibly a little bit gay.
He's a little...
Look, is it gay to like wash your ass and balls and wear a nice shirt? The answer is maybe. You metrosexual, you pussy.
The early 2000s were so scared of gay, but also so
in love with
very
gay.
gay.
Oh, they were gay.
Yes, big gay.
And them
We had
low-rise
Britney
jeans.
Spears.
I didn't wear jeans. I just quit wearing jeans
Yeah.
and never wore them again because I got a belly.
Yeah, but the zippers were maybe an inch long.
Maybe.
Like, yeah.
It's like, girl, my coochie is going to escape these pants.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get my labia caught in that tiny
With the
zipper.
thong hanging out the back.
No, ma'am, we do not do that. I am a modest slut.
Had the little rhinestone baby girl on it. Oh, hell yeah.
Juicy.
Juicy. Mm-hmm.
Do you know that my poor gothic self hated that from 2000 until like, I'd say 2014. I was like, this is crap the whole time. Please continue.
Well, yeah, so I'm glad that we went on that tangent about metrosexual because I needed a little bit of cushion before this because this case, like I said, is insane. So, Lover, Stalker, Killer, the docuseries, follows the bizarre and very twisted case, the story of Dave Kroupa. Now, Dave Kroupa was known as a quote-unquote casual online dater. He had a very typical upbringing, a classic all-American life with a brother and two loving parents who were happily married for over 40 years. Dave saw the way that his parents stayed together and thought that marriage was a complete scam. He vowed to never marry, never settle down, and stayed very transparent throughout his entire adult dating life. In 2000, Dave lived in Wisconsin working at a truck stop as a mechanic, and there he would meet a woman named Amy Flora. Amy worked with him at the mechanic shop, and it didn't take long for the two to start flirting, and Dave asked her out on a date. She later said, quote, he asked me if he could take me out on a date, and it was kind of in a goofy way. His dorkiness kind of did attract me, adding, quote, before you know it, we had everything but the white picket fence. The two were together 12 years and had 2 children in that time, 1 boy and 1 girl. It seemed like they had it all, except the ring. Dave was very clear and stood by the fact that he didn't want to be married. On top of that, he also got a vasectomy, which meant no more kids for Amy. And both those things were something that Amy really wanted. She had spent 12 years of her life with a man who couldn't promise her forever. She had raised the children, moved all over the country following his jobs, and she wanted more. Dave worked during the day and Amy worked nights, and they basically never saw each other as it was. So the two split up. It seemed pretty amicable. They stayed friends and co-parented pretty well. Amy moved back to Council Bluff, Iowa to be closer to her family, and Dave ended up moving to be closer to her and the children. He ended up settling down an hour away in Omaha, Nebraska.
Yeah, and it seems really reasonable.
Oh, yeah, it's absolutely reasonable.
Yeah.
No, the thing between Dave and Amy is perfectly fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Amy's great. I like Amy. Amy's good. He got himself his own apartment, and things started to look up for Dave. It was just a small 1-bedroom apartment with very little furnishings, but he was a simple man and he didn't need much. It was nice to have his freedom as a single person, especially in a new city. And he ended up getting on Plenty of Fish.
Hey.
Yeah, I know you did. And he
sure did.
And he started dating again. And the thing about Dave is that he never wavers from this, I guess, philosophy, basically. He does not want to date, or he does not want to get tied down. He doesn't want anything serious. He doesn't want to be married ever. And he's very transparent with everyone he's involved with, which I really respect.
I do too.
I think that, I mean, and a lot of other women that he talked to did respect this. Absolutely. Because we like transparency.
I sure do like a good, honest communication.
My God, it's so frustrating getting involved with somebody and then later on, once you're really hooked on them, finding out, oh, that's not what they want. Like, come the fuck on. We're adults.
No, I don't want this. I never wanted this.
Yeah.
And you're like, would have been cool to know like 400 years earlier.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. Just as always, like in his bio and everything on Plenty of Fish, he was completely upfront with what he wanted. And he met a lot of women. He dated a lot of them. He slept with them. He, had many that he just kind of talked to. One in particular he ended up seeing more often than the rest. Her name was Liz Goyer. She was about the same age as Dave. She had 2 kids that were about the same age as his kids. And she was looking for something casual, nothing serious, because she had just gotten out of a relationship. They ended up talking on Plenty of Fish, and Dave eventually asked her out on a date to a coffee shop. They ended up really hitting it off. They talked the entire time. She laughed a lot and joked around a lot. And Dave really thought that this was great. And he thought that she was really hot. He really liked her boobies. So that was kind of a plus for him as well. He'd end up actually taking her on 5 dates before ever attempting to kiss her. So he really tried to take things slow with her. But as soon as he went in for the kiss, things just spiraled. They ended up taking it to the bedroom, and the night was wild. And Dave later said that like Liz was crazy in the sack. Like it was a lot more than he could really handle. Yeah.
Coward.
They hung out at the bar a lot together. They shot pool. They had drinks. They laughed. They danced. Liz was a lot of fun. Like, that was kind of her whole shtick. Like, she was just a lot of fun. She was high energy and just loved having a good time, which is exactly what Dave was looking for. Or so he thought. Liz, now, she had a very rough upbringing. Unlike Dave, Liz's childhood and early adult life was far from easy. By the time she was born, her parents had already lost custody of 2 of her siblings. Her father had been charged with, quote-unquote, indecent liberties with a child, which we can all understand what that probably means. Because of this and other types of abuse, baby Liz and another one of her siblings were sent into foster care. Now, Liz's mom worked really, really hard to get her kids back. She left the kid's dad. The kid's dad ended up drinking himself to death anyways. But she left the father. She, took all the classes. She did all the paperwork. She did all of the things that she needed to do to get her children back. And then 2 weeks before she was planning on meeting her children again and finalizing the custody, 2 weeks before that, she was killed in a car accident. So there was no hope for Liz.
No.
Her father died of alcoholism shortly after, and she was basically an orphan her entire life. So, yeah, she grew up in an orphanage, basically, and in the system. She watched all of her siblings get adopted out individually to different parents, to different families, and not her. She bounced around from foster care to foster care, and her life was really rough. She ended up getting married very young. She had children. One of her babies was killed by one of the fathers from shaken baby syndrome. Like, this woman had it.
This is rough.
Really rough. Like, This is all before she's 25.
I can't imagine.
Like, this is a lot. So she ended up leaving the baby's father. She went on a few dates with some more men. She had another children. And once that relationship was over, she logged on to Plenty of Fish, and that's where she met Dave. The thing is that she really liked Dave a lot more than he was willing to like her. Dave wanted to just be friends with benefits and said that even if he were to start dating, he later said that he wouldn't have dated Liz anyways because she wasn't intellectually stimulating to him. Like, it's not that she was stupid or anything, but they never had any of those really in-depth conversations. There was none of those really talk for hours about really exciting things. Like, there was nothing like that with her. It was literally just kind of surface base, quote unquote fun. So, yeah. Liz basically thought that Dave was perfect and wanted to be with him. And that's not the case for Dave. She started getting really clingy. She started getting really nosy about his personal life, which he didn't really like, but he was still honest and upfront about. But she started to get jealous. She knew he was going out on dates with other women because he told her he was. So she would call him, come over to his house after he got off work before the dates, knowing he had a date to go on. She would go over to his house, fuck the shit out of him, just rail him.
Power move.
So that way, whenever he did go out on these dates, he would either be too tired to even go, or if he did go, he would be too tired or too worn out to have sex with these women.
The boots. Yeah.
Or so she thought. You know what I mean? Like, he's still a dude at the end of the day. He probably did anyways. But
how old is he?
In his mid-30s. I know.
Nah, he's tired. I know. He's tired. He's laying down.
So, yeah, that was basically one of her many tactics. It got to the point to where they're hanging out almost every day, and Dave didn't like where this was heading. So he told Liz that they needed to take a step back, take a break, not hang out so much. And he told Liz that she should probably start dating other people. He had no idea that Liz had already deleted her Plenty of Fish account. Mm-hmm.
Yikes.
Mm-hmm. But she did seem a little put off at the thought of dating other people. She told Dave that she wasn't like that she didn't sleep around, insinuating that he was nasty for doing so. She started not only getting jealous of the women that he was seeing online, but also of his ex, Amy, who he only saw for a few minutes in the driveway while exchanging the children. They didn't really talk that much. It's not like they hung out at all. Like, they briefly glanced at each other like once a week kind of thing. And so, like, if he, had a weekend with the kids or whatever, she would be like, oh, so were you with Amy? Did you see Amy this weekend? And he was like, yeah, fuck off. Like,
go away.
Yeah. And she would try to, get even more nosy and be like, well, are you seeing Amy now? Like, are you with her now? And he was like, no, but even if I was, like,
it's
fuck
none of your
off.
business.
Yeah, it's none of
this
your
clear
business.
From the beginning.
Absolutely. So, yeah. And the thing is that, like, they had only been talking to each other for 3 months at this point.
Yeah, she's too much too soon.
Yeah, it was a lot. And so, yeah, he just basically stood his ground, stood where his boundaries were, and Liz continued to just push and push and push for a relationship. But they still hung out from time to time. He's still a dude. She puts out, like, she is still kind of fun to hang around. So, he kind of kept their friendship. And then she starts emailing him a lot, asking him things like, when will I be good enough for you? Why don't you want to be with me? Are you scared I'll cheat on you? Like, basically begging him to be with her. She was no longer the chill girl that he'd hang out with from time to time. She was now spiraling and getting obsessed. It was getting to the point where Dave was getting really annoyed at her and just wanted it to stop. Then he gets an email from Liz suggesting that they compromise. She suggests that they do essentially a trial run, which I've never heard of anybody doing this ever.
What does that mean?
But, like, he's so annoyed at her at this point that he's just like, fine, whatever. So Liz told him that if they basically pretended to date, like a simulation, like basically acted like they were dating for 30 days, if he didn't actually want to be with her by the end of that 30 days, that she would be done, that she would quit emailing him, that she would quit pursuing him, And he was like, fine, I guess. If this means you'll stop, like, I'll just continue being the person that I am.
He just should not have.
Clearly, I think hindsight, he knows that this was not
This is a mistake.
Yeah,
yes.
absolutely.
And I'm not blaming him.
No.
I get why he did this.
I think he was trying to prove the point.
Either that or he was trying to be maybe kind. You don't know.
Right.
Maybe felt bad for him.
I think it might have been a little bit of both. Because he's not a bad guy. He's a nice guy. He just wants to fuck around, which that's totally fine.
Which is perfectly your prerogative.
Right. So, yeah, he was like, okay, fine. And for the most part, from his point of view, nothing changed. Except over that month, Liz slowly started to move into his apartment. She brought over pots and pans and cooking utensils, her toothbrush, her hair care products. She left clothes and jewelry and other personal items. She even moved in some of her furniture. Because again, he was living in like a bachelor pad in a tiny apartment. He barely had any furniture. He liked it that way. But she started moving furniture in and started making his apartment feel like home. Like a woman does. But this was uninvited.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is calculated shit to insinuate herself in his life.
Exactly. So by the end of the 30 days, she would be practically moved in anyways. Why doesn't she just live there? Why don't they just be together since they're already, Like, that was her idea. Yeah. So Liz really thought that she had this whole relationship in the bag at this point. She thought that since she's practically moved in, they would just stay together after the 30 days was up. But instead, Dave still felt the way that he'd always felt. And after the 30 days was up, he was just like, okay, that's it. Time to leave. And she was supposed to leave him alone. But since Dave wasn't acting any different, I don't think she really knew that it was for real done between them.
No, clearly not.
Because again, he wasn't acting different. He didn't overly, he didn't get mad. He didn't make a big scene. He was just chill Dave the entire time. So I think because it wasn't a definitive no, even though it was a definitive no the entire time, I think because it wasn't so in your face like a knockout, drag out fight, I don't think she really took it as a no.
Or it didn't matter because she's already clearly building narratives in her head.
Right. Right. Yeah. So, yeah, she doesn't really for real believe that everything's done necessarily until one day in November of 2012, she stopped by because she said that she had left something at his place, which obviously she did. And that's when she saw another woman leaving his apartment.
Uh-oh.
Her name is Cari Farver. Cari Farver was a 37-year-old mother to a 14-year-old boy named Maxwell. He was her entire world. She lived in a big, beautiful house in Macedonia, Iowa. She worked an hour away in Omaha as a computer programmer. But it was worth the drive because she made really good money and she liked her job. And she was able to provide for the ones that she loved most. I believe that she was also taking care of her parents. I know her father was very ill. Her mother helped take care of Maxwell while she was at work. And I believe that part of her having such a good job meant that she could also help provide some financial support for both her son, herself, and her mother. But she was very close to her parents, and they helped each other as much as humanly possible. One day in fall of 2012, towards the end of the 30-day trial with Liz, Cari Farver's car needed some work, and so she took it into the car mechanic shop that Dave worked at. The two locked eyes and smiled, and they exchanged information about the car, and that was it. Dave thought that she was basically the most beautiful woman he had ever seen in his life, and he really felt like there was some spark between them, even though it was very quick exchange.
Yeah.
He didn't want to hit on her at work, obviously. So later that night, Dave was scrolling on Plenty of Fish, and he accidentally stumbled across Cari's profile. He saw that photo, he recognized her, and so he messaged her, and he said, "Hey, I know you." And she messaged back, and she was like, "Hey, I know you too."
Oh, that's kind of
I
cute.
know. And they started talking, and it was very wonderful. They kept it light and friendly and casual. They talked for a few weeks, and then Cari came back into the mechanic shop for new tires. And by then, the trial period with Liz was up, and Dave knew that he could now ask her out, which he did, and she agreed. They both ended up telling their friends after the date that the date went really well and that they hadn't laughed like that in years and that they would definitely be seeing each other again. They had gone out to Applebee's, and afterwards they went back to Dave's place. When she could tell that things were kind of about to get intimate, Cari stopped Dave, and she told him basically, like, look, I don't want anything serious. I don't want to be in a committed relationship. I just want to have some fun.
And he was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, Dave was like, bet.
Same,
yeah,
girl.
yeah. Like, she was literally perfect, dude. Cari was like a breath of fresh air to him. She was highly intelligent. She had her shit together. She had a nice house. She drove a nice car and took really good care of herself. She was gorgeous and she was fit and adventurous. And most importantly, she wasn't looking for anything serious. She really wasn't. She liked her life just the way it was. She didn't want to add anything to it or change anything about it. She just wanted to have fun and meet new people. It's almost as if Liz knew that there was someone there, because as soon as they got back to Dave's apartment, he immediately started getting text messages from Liz saying that she had to come over immediately and grab some of her things. Dave tried to tell her that it wasn't a good time right now, but she came over anyways. She started ringing the call button to be called up to his apartment, like over and over and over again, trying to get him to buzz her up. And you know, this was really awkward for Dave. Like, not only was his phone blowing up, like, you know, and this is at the end of a first date with Cari. Like, he's trying to impress this girl. And he was really nervous about how Cari was going to feel about this whole situation. Cari honestly took it, like, totally cool. She was like, look, obviously, like, I expected you to be dating other women. This is not new or weird to me whatsoever. She was like, look, I can tell the situation is kind of getting heated. Like, I'm going to remove myself. I had a wonderful time.
Night,
I will be seeing you again. Don't worry. This isn't weird. She was just like, I'm going to politely excuse myself. Please call me later, you know. And as she's leaving the apartment, he had buzzed Liz up. And the two just passed each other in the hallway.
That's it.
That's it.
That's all it took.
That's all it took. No words were exchanged, possibly a single glance maybe as they were walking by, but that was it. And over the next few days, Liz was emailing and texting Dave like crazy, completely losing it over this quote-unquote failed relationship in her eyes. She sent an email to Dave that read, quote, I know you don't know what will happen down the road, and I don't really want to think about it. Are you asking me for the long break so I can forget everything? I'm going to give it to you, so don't worry. I just was wondering. Sorry. I guess I need closure. Do I forget everything about us? Am I going to date others? But if no one catches my eye, does distance make the heart grow fonder? Or do you want me to go, or do you want me to go and just never come back? She goes on to say, I guess I hope even if you're dating others, that you'll look back and smile when you think of me, and that someday you'll let me back in, no matter what it may be, a friend or whatever. It's just too much.
It's too much. That was a lot.
When we set the ground rules, you don't get to change the rules.
You don't get to just make up narratives in your head just because you don't like the outcome that you ignored, even though it was told to you at the start.
Exactly. So Dave just basically ignored Liz's emails. He said all he needed to say, and that was basically it. They were never really together. He tried to prove that to her over that month, trial run, but she just wouldn't get it, and now he just was exhausted by the whole situation. He wanted to keep seeing Cari, and Cari wanted to keep seeing him. The two started hanging out regularly and casually sleeping with each other. Dave's apartment was right up the road from Cari's work. So Cari had this really big project coming up. She was kind of stressed out about it. And Dave suggested that she stay the night at his house for that week while she's doing the project with work. It would help out with so much driving time. And, she could work on it late at night and,
Makes sense.
Yeah. Cari loved this idea. She was like, this is great. This doesn't mean that we're going to be anything, but thanks for the place to crash. This really helps out a lot. And, some nights they had sex. Often they just kind of hung out and talked and just chilled. They kind of became friends during this week. And Cari really liked their whole friends with benefits kind of situation, and so did Dave. On
It
November,
sounds like it works for them.
it was working perfectly until November 13th, about a week in, less than a week into their stay. And it's about 2 weeks after they started talking. So this is very soon. Dave woke up to find Cari sitting in the floor of his living room with papers strewn all around her as she's finishing up for her project for work. He thought it was actually really cute to see her amongst all of her paperwork, just really focused on what she was doing. He kissed her goodbye and headed off for work. Everything seemed normal until that afternoon. He received a text message from Cari asking if she could move in. And he's like,
No.
I thought we talked about this. And from there, the harassing text messages from Cari were never ending. Cari didn't show up to work that day. She never returned home. Her bedroom stayed untouched. Her son and parents never saw her again. No one did, for that matter. But they did receive text messages and emails from Cari. She told her mother that she had quit her job and had moved away and asked if she could take care of Max. She posted on Facebook that she was moving to Kansas for a new job and that she had just started dating Dave Kroupa. Like, told Facebook this. That she was in a relationship with Dave Kroupa.
This has gone off the deep end
and that
real
she was
bad.
moving to Kansas.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Yeah. Which clearly, obviously wasn't true. So she refused to leave Dave alone. The harassing text messages and emails just never stopped. Dave was really sad at first. He came back to his house after work that day to find his apartment completely rid of any sign of Cari having ever been there. And he kind of just like looked at his empty apartment and was just really sad because like that connection seemed really real. And, you know, that time that they spent together was really great. But, you know, there was also that part of him that was like, well, this is just 2 weeks in and knowing this girl. Like, I'm glad that her true colors are showing now as opposed to like later down the road. So
yeah.
It didn't take long for Cari's stalking to reach other people in Dave's life. Somehow, Cari started stalking Liz as well. Somehow, she got Liz's phone number and email and began sending her threatening messages. Cari also somehow found out where Liz lived and broke into her house, stole checks out of her wallet. The checks happened to be from an old account that Liz didn't use anymore, but still, Liz was really freaked out that there was, you know, things missing from her apartment. So she filed a police report. At one point, Dave counted over 30 text messages and 100 emails in just one day. He'd block one number and she'd come back with another number.
Jeez.
Over and over and over again. She would send him messages about like where they were, what they were doing, random times throughout the day. She said things about wanting to harm or kill both of their children. She would send pictures of their children to them. She would even...
Oh my God.
Yeah, she even began watching Amy, the baby mama, and like stalking Amy's house and his kids. And it got so bad that Dave had to file a police report against Cari for stalking and harassment. Meanwhile, Cari's mother filed a missing persons report because no one had physically seen her or heard her voice since November 13th. They weren't really any help, though, because they did end up locating Cari's cell phone, and it seemed to be pinging only in an area right outside of Dave's apartment. And they basically said if she wanted to go missing, then she can go missing. She's an adult, but her cell phone is active right there, so...
That's...
Yeah.
really scary, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They searched around Dave's apartment hoping to find her, like in the area that the cell phone was pinging, but they never found her. She seemingly broke into Dave's apartment and took Liz's clothes, slashed holes in them with a kitchen knife to signify stabbing. She also keyed his car and Liz's car. Dave decided to move apartments, but the harassment continued there. She seemed to be right outside his window at all times, describing what he was wearing, what he was doing inside of his own apartment. He'd run outside to try to find her, but he never did. At one point, Cari messaged him a picture of a pregnancy test, told him that she was pregnant with his kid, but Dave had a vasectomy, and Cari had a hysterectomy. So, no, she wasn't pregnant. So after this whole pregnancy thing, Cari ended up texting Liz and told her to stay away from Dave for their baby's sake. Liz had finally had enough. She was like, fine, if you want him, have him. He's yours. Take him.
Don't care.
Don't care. But we all know how Liz actually felt about Dave. She actually really enjoyed this because the more that they were both stalked by Cari, the more Liz and Dave talked. The more they got together, the more they hung out.
This is so wild.
Yes.
I'm struggling.
I'm telling you, this case has so many twists and turns. It's like, it gets my heart racing. Like, it's just really intense. So Dave generally felt bad for Cari, or felt bad for bringing Cari into Liz's life. Like, he felt bad that all of this was happening. He felt like it was genuinely his fault, and he felt responsible for what was happening to Liz and Amy and his kids. Like, he felt like all of this was his fault. And he felt like he needed to protect Liz as well as his family. And so, I don't know, it was kind of like the more the stalking happened, the more time they spent together, the more it almost felt like they were actually dating. But when Dave felt like they were getting a little too close, that Liz was getting a little clingy again, he'd tell her that they needed to cool it off, lay low, and lo and behold, the harassment from Cari would start back up again and get worse. And so Dave would feel like he needed to protect Liz again, and it was just like this very vicious cycle. As Dave is trying to distance himself from Liz, he starts dating other people and trying to find some sort of normalcy. One woman he began seeing, she ended up adding him on Facebook, and pretty much immediately once she added him on Facebook, Dave started getting messages from Cari, and that woman also started getting really, really aggressive messages from Cari saying that Dave had herpes, which he didn't, and said that she should leave him alone. It got so bad that this woman had to file a police report because Cari was now bringing up her children, this random woman's children, and basically threatening her children's lives. So it was basically anyone who got relatively close to Dave was a target for Cari. Whether it be them,
obviously.
Their kids,
Damn.
their parents, their family, anybody associated to them. Like, she was after anybody that came in eyesight of Dave.
That's so wild.
She ended up spray painting, quote, "whore from Dave" and "she will die" on Liz's garage, and then emailed Dave later admitting that she did it. She was like, "Hey, did you like that stuff I spray painted on your girlfriend's garage?"
No.
Like, every time she did something, she would email and basically say, "Yep, I did it." Not long after that, Cari texted Dave to let him know that she had set Liz's house on fire. And she did. She burnt that fucker to the ground.
Oh my God.
Thankfully, Liz and her children were not home.
Thank God.
But her pets were.
Oh.
She had a few cats and a few snakes. And they all died. She sent Dave, this eventually set Dave over the edge. Like, it's one thing to be texting, it's another thing to set someone's house on fire.
Yeah, it really is.
So, with all the threats against his children and Amy escalating with the fire, he knew he had to protect them. Amy had already told Dave that the children weren't allowed in his apartment as soon as the stalking had started, and now Dave was over there so much he had almost practically moved in with Amy. Amy even later said that one night she found her son sleeping on the couch. I think he was about 9 years old at this time. He was very young. She found her son sleeping on the couch in the middle of the night, and when she woke him up, he said that he was sleeping there to protect his family, to be there by the front door if any intruder came in. Like, it was getting to the point that even his
scary.
children were ready to protect them from Cari. And, yeah, this obviously just led Liz and Dave to continue to get closer and closer as friends. They would meet up to talk about what they called Crazy Cari. Every now and then for this harassment, like, I'm not going to go through all the text messages and emails, but it was vicious and vile. And this harassment lasted on Liz and Dave for 3 whole fucking years. From 2012 until 2015. Constant emails, constant text messages.
Scary and stressful.
Just consistent. Yeah, it's stressful. I'm sure they all got white hair at that point because, man, it was a nightmare. Meanwhile, so while all of this is going on with Liz and Dave, it has been months since Cari has been seen or heard from by her mother or son. Her mother is beyond worried. She basically assumes the worst has happened. A few days after she was last seen, her mother received a text message from Cari saying that she had sold all of her furniture and that basically that like people were going to come pick it up. She sent a picture of a check for $5,000, basically proving that her furniture was sold. But Cari's mother, this was another really big flag for Cari's mother because this furniture was family heirlooms. Like, these were items that she would never sell. She made really good money. Like, why would she sell family heirlooms?
Yeah.
Also, no one ever came to pick up the furniture. Ever. No one came to Cari's house. Cari's house stayed untouched. Her bedroom, like I said, stayed untouched. She never packed. Nothing. So none of this made sense. It didn't sound like Cari, not just because of what was happening, but also the messages weren't worded the way that Cari would speak. There were tons of punctuation and spelling errors, and it just wasn't like Cari. Her mother begged her to call her. She tried calling herself, but Cari refused to answer or call back. She sounded mean and aggressive and bitter, and this just wasn't like her. Cari was genuinely a positive and kind person. Cari was at one point diagnosed bipolar. And a lot of articles bring this up as some sort of contributing factor. I obviously do not believe that it is. Because regardless of her diagnosis, these actions were not Cari. This was not like her at all. This was not normal. And her mother even later said that Cari was diagnosed with bipolar while going through postpartum, as well as a huge breakup between her and her baby's daddy. So, like, she was going through a lot when she got this diagnosis. And so her mother believes that she was misdiagnosed, which, as somebody who was misdiagnosed with bipolar in the early 2000s, I can attest it was very easy to get misdiagnosed with that particular disease. So
yes,
grain of salt with whenever anybody mentions it. But I say that because Cari's mother originally tried, when she originally tried to file the police report, the police found out about her bipolar diagnosis and tried to use that as saying, like, well, maybe she's just going through a little episode right now. Like, they really belittled her with this. Said that she was just going through an episode and that she'll be back once she's done, essentially. But no, this was not just some episode. Cari would never leave her son. She loved her job. She was passionate about her life, and she would never leave her family. Through all of the text messages and emails and stalking, she never once contacted her son, Max. I believe that there was like one text message like at the very beginning, and I couldn't find it, but I think she said something really shitty. But other than that, she did not contact Max, and that was obviously not like her whatsoever. She missed his 15th birthday, and after a while, the courts considered it this abandonment and awarded her parents with sole custody of Max. She was really close to her father, who had died 2 weeks after she went missing. She would have never left her father. She knew that her father was sick. She would have never just left with him being that close to death. And she even missed his funeral. Her mother actually said that after Cari's father passed away, she had a dream where he came to her in this dream, and he said, "Baby, Cari's okay. She's with me. She's okay." How many times have we heard cases like this, though? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have.
It happens a lot. And a mother's intuition.
Yeah, ain't never wrong.
Mm-hmm. So Cari's mother, had no idea what to do. She tried going to police. They did open a case eventually, but they were no help. They didn't care. They wanted to find her, but to arrest her, not to make sure that she was safe. Meanwhile, police are working on this stalking case against Cari. They mentioned to Dave and Liz that they are missing, that there was a missing persons case open for Cari Farver. And the next day, the sheriff himself received a text message from Cari Farver.
Anytime this fucking happens, I swear to you, someone else has their phone.
I'm saying.
Why does anyone thinks this shit ever works?
I'm saying. So basically, this text message said that they should just drop the missing persons case, leave Dave alone because she wasn't missing. And those missing checks that Liz had mentioned, she was like, yeah, I stole the whole checkbook, by the way. So now they had to have an active warrant against her for theft. So, yeah, there's all that. And then one day, a few months after all this started, Dave noticed Cari's car was parked at his apartment complex, randomly out of nowhere. So it was clearly abandoned there. It had been vacuumed and wiped down, completely cleaned out. Police took it in for processing. They noticed one pink stain under, like, on the passenger seat, like underneath the seat cover. But they didn't process it. They just noticed it. And then they didn't find a single fingerprint anywhere. And the fact that the whole car was cleaned out was a huge red flag. Now, eventually, because everything was wiped down. Like, there wasn't a single fingerprint on the steering wheel.
Yeah, that's not normal.
The outside, the inside, the nothing. They did eventually find a tin of mints down in the center console. It was the only thing left in the car.
It's so strange.
This tin of mints had one single fingerprint on it, but it didn't match anybody in the system. So that was all they had. It's all they could go off of. And I believe they kept the tin of mints in for evidence, but the car was owned technically by Cari's mother. So Cari's mom came and got the car. She kept it for a while, but eventually she had to sell it because it was just sitting there. And 3 years go by. Her case goes cold. And then those two investigators I mentioned at the beginning, they ended up taking over the case, reopening it to see if they could find any new information. Just as they were opening up the case, Liz walked into the police station with an update. She says that she's still being stalked and harassed, but this time she doesn't think that it's actually coming from Cari. She thinks that all these messages are actually coming from Amy, Dave's baby mama.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. She said that she thinks that Amy did something terrible to Cari, took her phones and all of her, devices and everything, and that's why Cari disappeared. She mentioned that a gun was stolen from Dave's apartment and that she thinks that Amy stole the gun and that Amy would use it on her if given the chance. She was scared. She said that if Amy killed Cari and set her house on fire and now has a gun, like, Amy could do anything. Like, Liz
Obviously.
is terrified, right?
Yeah.
The investigators asked Liz if they could have her cell phone and computer records to see if they could get any evidence against Amy or Cari or whoever was sending these messages, and Liz provided them with everything they needed. When they went through Liz's cell phone and computer records, they found tons of apps that would help delay messages by sending them at certain times. Like, I don't know, per se, while she was hanging out at Dave's house. They also found apps that would change IP addresses and phone numbers and apps that would set location pings to specific areas. The IT guy on this case is absolutely fantastic. I love him through and through. He talks about his autism and he's like, I have a protein shake, and like he eats the same thing every single day. Like, he's extremely beautifully autistic.
Autism.
I love him, but it makes him an amazing IT guy. Like, this guy is hyper intelligent. Incredible. So this guy ended up actually writing his own program so he could counteract the VPNs to find the actual IP address of the text messages being sent by the supposed Cari. So he called this system DEX, D-E-X. And
this is getting sexy.
I know,
Okay.
right? Because he creates almost like his own AI system, right?
Oh, I'm loving this.
Mm-hmm. And so he starts talking to the AI. It's like layman's terms for AI. It's not technically AI because
it's not like a chatbot, like an LLM.
No, but he's able to speak to this computer program
with
that
code,
he created.
Yes, and then it answers back in code.
Right.
Yeah.
So he starts talking to this computer program. He starts talking to Dex, and he's like, okay, give me the amount of IP addresses that are used most frequently. And then he's like able to, narrow it down by basically, more specific and more specific VPNs and all these things. I don't know the terms, but he basically is able to narrow it down to one IP address that is not associated with a VPN. That address led him to a house in Council Bluffs, Iowa. This is the home of one of his own employees, a man named Todd Butterball. I'm so sorry, Todd.
Oh, Todd, my darling.
I'm so sorry. So Todd Butterball was the network administrator for the Potawatomi County. Like, this is somebody who works under this IT guy who is currently researching this case. Like, what the absolute fuck? This is the last person he ever thought it would boil down to. So they instantly had to guard all of their information because this guy is an administrator in IT. So all this information that he's gathering on this case, he instantly had to like basically block anybody from being able to see it because the entire department can see it at this point. So he does that. He shuts it all down, and then they go to his house with a search warrant. They ask Todd if anyone else had been using his Wi-Fi. He told them that he did have an on-again, off-again girlfriend who came over from time to time. She had actually been living with him ever since her house caught on fire. Yeah, girl.
What?
His girlfriend is Liz fucking Goyer.
What is happening?
So that's when this whole case like just kind of crumbles.
So she was trying to frame Amy when she was doing it.
Mm-hmm.
All the stalking was
it was
from her.
Liz the entire fucking time.
Yeah.
From the moment she passed by Cari Farver in the hallway, it was on. Liz is fucking crazy, dude. Liz is fucking crazy, dude. Liz is
obviously.
Liz is scary. Liz is scary. Okay.
Clearly.
Yeah. So investigators also found that Liz had been issued an eviction notice right before her house caught on fire. She had actually already started moving out. She had started moving her children out.
Yeah.
Most of her things was out of that house before she set it on fire.
Except her pets.
Exactly, dude.
She made it to look like she wouldn't have done it.
Dude.
I hate that shit. I'm pissed now.
Mm-hmm. Police kind of like gathered all of this information. They figured out, obviously that it was Liz, but they didn't have all of the information to really nail her, but they had enough information to know exactly what was going on, so they had to warn Dave. They had to. They could not let Dave just be in the middle of this without knowing what was going on. So police came to Dave's work to talk to Dave and let him know like what was going on. When he found out that it was Liz the entire time, that she had murdered Cari, burned down her own house, and all of this was all over him, he had a fucking breakdown. He said that he went into that back room, knelt over his toolbox, and wept. His brain just started spinning. It was Liz this whole entire time. It was Liz the whole time.
Oh my God.
Like he's like really going through the past 3 fucking years of his life, realizing that all these times that he was scared for his life, it was the one person closest to him the entire time. So, yeah, he just felt really bad. Like all this hate that he had for Cari this whole time, and she was just dead. Like there was so much guilt there. So now they know Liz did it, but they had to physically place her there at the scene of the crime in order to make their arrest. They had to figure out what the scene of the crime was, right? Like they had to figure out everything. They had to like really get their evidence straight before even letting Liz know what they knew. So they went back to all of the evidence. They found in the original downloads of Liz's cell phone that just a few months into their investigation, they found a photo on Liz's phone of Cari's car with its license plate. It was dated Christmas of 2012. Her car wasn't found until January 8th of 2013. So this was a huge red flag in the case. That car was supposed to be just missing. Why was that photo on her phone?
That's creepy as shit.
Right? And honestly, what even adds to the creepiness of it is that the photo that she has on her phone, there's like 3 or 4 inches of snow just like accumulating on the car. So she had known that it had been there for an extended period of time when she took that photo. Like it had already been abandoned for about a month at that point.
Yeah, clearly.
Over a month. So, yeah. So they went back to that single fingerprint that they found in the car on the mint tin. They compared it to Liz's known fingerprint, and guess what? It was hers. It was Liz's fingerprint.
Obviously, yeah.
Absolutely. But this only placed Liz in Cari's car. It doesn't place her as a murderer. And so they had to act fast because Liz was now obviously willing to do anything. They had to make sure that she didn't do any more brash, like really crazy decisions at this point. They had to really keep everybody safe. So they put a tracker on her car. And basically, within the first few minutes, they found out that Liz is circling Amy's house like a fucking shark.
Oh my God.
Just circling the block, actively watching Amy. Soon after, Liz told the officers about this missing gun. I believe it was like even later that night. In the middle of the night, in December of 2015, Liz calls 911 to report she had been shot. Liz just happened to be walking around at night.
Like you do.
Like you do, clearing the air, getting thoughts out, walking the park at night. When out of nowhere, someone attacked her, shot her in the leg, and ran off. She said that she didn't see the perpetrator. She didn't get a good view of their face, but she heard their voice as they were leaving. She didn't say what they said, but she knew that was the voice of Amy. She knew it was Amy that tried to kill her that night in the middle of the park. So, police ended up not only did they dispense helicopters, like they got the fucking helicopter team with a spotlight over that park. I mean, somebody had been shot. So they get them out. They're, spotlighting everything. They're watching all over the park. They don't see a single soul, much less somebody running from the scene. But they search anyways. They also sent a huge group of police officers. Several cars ended up showing up at Amy's house, busting in her door with like the flashlights and the guns pointed in her face. And Amy is very clearly half asleep, stumbling to the door in her pajamas, rubbing the crust out of her eyes. She is in shock. She has no idea what's going on. All of her babies are sound asleep. She was clearly just asleep. And while they're trying to figure everything out, one of the officers had a thought like, okay, this park is pretty far away from Amy's house. She would have had driven there. They touched the hood of her car. Her car is cold. Her car would have been very hot. That engine would have been hot had she have just driven. But it wasn't. So it was very clear that Amy did not leave that house.
No, not at all.
Not at all. So they didn't arrest her because she clearly didn't do it. But clearly this, they weren't buying it. They obviously knew that Liz was the one behind all of this, but they had to keep Liz thinking that they were on her side. They had to keep Liz thinking that, okay, they believe her now. They definitely believe her that Amy's the one that shot the gun, that you didn't obviously shoot yourself in the fucking leg, you idiot. So after Liz's leg is all healed, they call her in for an interview, kind of trying to make this case seem way more real than it is. And all she can do is talk about Amy and how Amy is ruining her life and how all she wants is Amy taken down and, behind bars and all of this stuff. So one of the investigators called Dave and told him that it was probably in his best interest to move in with his ex-girlfriend Amy and his children to protect them, because they know that Liz is just circling that house, that Liz is on one. She could do anything, anything could happen. And he was like, look, as from one father to the next, if I had to move in with my ex to protect my children, I would do it. Absolutely.
In a heartbeat.
Right. And so Dave was like, yeah, you're right. So he did. He moved in with Amy, and Amy was totally fine with it. Like, she wanted that extra protection for sure. The only person not okay with it is obviously Liz. She's pissed. So the next day, she calls up at the police station saying, quote, like, so she calls up. She's very clearly upset. And they're like, who is this? And she's like, it's Liz. And they're like, what's up, Liz? And she's like, she's still not arrested. She gets to shoot somebody, and then she gets to kill another person, and then she gets to move in with Dave, and you guys aren't arresting her?
Uh-oh.
Yeah. She's not okay.
She's not okay.
They told her that there still wasn't enough evidence against her to arrest her, basically enticing her to disclose more details. So she does. She delivers basically a forwarded message from Amy. She's starting to show them all these emails that Amy is sending her. She says, yeah, I shot you. Like stupid shit like that. And it's, she really thinks that it's believable that all of this is coming from Amy. It's clearly not. But she shows them a message from Amy saying in great detail, disgusting detail, of everything that she had allegedly done to Cari. She goes into detail about how she abducted her, how she put her in her car, how she drove her to a secluded, abandoned parking lot, how she stabbed her, how she put her body under a tarp and set it on fire and then took the body to the dump. She talked about, like, in extreme detail of what she did afterwards, how she got on Cari's phone and got on Facebook and all kinds of things. Like, she went into really, really hard detail. Now, the thing that they took from this email was obviously it was Liz outlining everything that she had actually done to Cari. But the one thing that they got from that was that she said that Cari was stabbed in her car, in the passenger seat. So police go back, they find the people that bought the car, they get the car, they take the seats apart, they find the blood stain. They obviously find out that it is blood, and they test it, and it is, in fact, Cari's blood. So there you have basically the murder scene. But with the presence of blood, the details in the emails, the fingerprint found on the mint tan, they finally have enough evidence to arrest Liz Gollier. Finally. After 3 fucking years.
Damn.
Of course, she denied everything and requested a lawyer, and she wasn't going to crack easily. And this was going to be a really tough case. Again, no body, right? So they have to prove not only that Cari is dead, but they also have to prove that how she died and where she died. Now, obviously, they have the blood stain, but that's just not enough. So the investigators on this case were incredibly dedicated to this. One officer was talking about how he essentially lost his marriage. He, just spent so much time on the case. He quit hanging out with his kids. Like he basically tore his life apart just focusing on this case. Now that IT guy that I talked about earlier, he actually ended up having a brain tumor that was growing at an exponential rate. And he asked his doctors if having it removed would, interfere with his work. And they said, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, it's a brain tumor. It's a brain surgery. You're gonna have a lot of healing time and a lot of therapy afterwards. So he was like, no, you have to wait. He was like, I'm not going to have that surgery until after this case is closed. Like, I am dedicating my fucking life to this case, because they had to find that, like, one smoking gun. They had to find that one thing that could, without a shadow of a doubt, prove in court that Cari Farver was murdered by Liz Gollier.
Right.
They had to find it, and they didn't have that quite yet. They had a lot of pieces. They didn't have the smoking gun. So they got to digging. They went back through every file, every folder, every image, every piece of evidence, and re-interviewed every person involved. After another discussion with Dave, they asked Dave very casually, just like in passing, like, hey, is there any other forms of technology that, might be from back then, that you just maybe have forgotten about or have lying around that you didn't turn in? He was like, honestly, I don't know. The technology difference from 2012 and 2015 was pretty drastic. So he's like, I have an old storage unit with a bunch of stuff I haven't seen in years, so I'll go through that and see if I can find anything. He does. He finds an old tablet. And in this old tablet, he brings it up to them, and In this old tablet, there's a micro SD card. Now, when they look at the micro SD card, it's been completely wiped. There's nothing on it. But the IT guy is amazing. He's able to find all 11,000 images that were wiped off this SD card. And it's very clear from these images that this is Cari's old SIM card. Liz's, sorry. Liz's old SIM card from her cell phone that she had in 2012 around the time of Cari's disappearance.
Oh my God.
They found it. And it's going to be one image out of the 11,000, mostly selfies of Liz.
I can't fucking talk.
No,
I got like 80,000 pictures of my dog.
Well, yeah, but yeah.
Have you seen Bunny?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You have an excuse. She's adorable. These are just all the same selfies of Liz. But in those photos, around the time that Cari went missing, they find a photo that just stands out from the rest. And he can't really make out what it was at first. I think he thought it was like a log or something. Like he thought it was like a piece of wood until, because I mean, it's like a thumbnail. You can't really get the full image out. So you kind of have to squint. But he starts looking at it and he's like, no, I think that's a body part. And then he gets out like his old medical journal. I love that he like compares diagrams and he's like, no, this is the exact vein pattern of a person's foot. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, girl. It is post-mortem. So like all of the veins kind of come out in that like marbling type effect. So it is a foot in a shoe, and on the foot is a tattoo. And this tattoo is the Chinese symbol for mother, the exact tattoo that Cari had. And this exact tattoo was confirmed by her mother.
Oh.
Fucking heartbreaking.
It really is.
But luckily, this was the evidence that they needed.
Yes, obviously.
This was exactly it. And Liz Goyer was eventually convicted of killing Cari Farver without a shadow of a doubt.
Good.
Mm-hmm. She was sentenced to life in prison.
Excellent.
And honestly, like, the saddest part, in my opinion, besides obviously the gruesome death of Cari Farver, is that for 3 years, that poor woman, that beautiful, amazing, smart, and talented, kind, courteous woman, her name was just dragged through the mud.
That's about just what I was going to say.
That is honestly one of the worst parts of this case, is that she's never done anything terrible to anybody.
I can't imagine.
And her whole community thought that she was just going crazy.
She was a crazy stalker
that
person.
Not only that, she was an arsonist and a possible attempted murderer.
Yeah.
And like all kinds of really terrible, that she had just left her son, that she didn't care about her family.
I was fixing to say she abandoned her child.
Yeah.
And she would never.
And people literally thought the worst of her by the end of this. And then so all of the people close to her, Dave especially, I can't imagine
What
the
he must have
guilt.
thought. Oh, yeah. I can't imagine.
The amount of hate that they had for this woman, only to come to find out that she was brutally victimized.
Sucks.
Brutally victimized. And, you know, the fact that it was just Liz, fucking Liz, the entire time. Somebody who was close, somebody who he confided in. Like, somebody who was there intricately throughout the entire thing. It just makes my stomach turn.
It's gross.
Just absolutely disgusting.
It's so chilling.
Absolutely disgusting. But I will give an added shout out, because like I do always want to bring awareness, especially for the victims afterwards. I always love whenever victims' family and close friends open up memorials and, different like college funds and foundations. So they did one for Cari because, again, she was a very intellectual person. She went through college. So they opened up a college scholarship for the local community college for their IT program. And they give $2,000 to a single student every single year in Cari Farver's name. And so I just absolutely love that. Yeah. Hate that this happened to her.
Disgusting.
But I'm glad that eventually she at least did get some sort of justice, some sort of victory, and, people are able to further their careers in her honor. And that's the only beautiful silver lining that we can find in this case. It is fucking disgusting and horrible. And Stalker Month is fucking insane, dude. It's fucking nuts. And stalkers are just beyond creepy. It's terrifying. And I know that you know.
Yeah.
What I mean.
I do.
The feeling of being watched through your fucking window.
Mm-hmm.
What the
I know
absolute fucked. Yes.
I know what that's like.
Yes.
I know. I don't look. I can't talk about it.
Yeah, I know.
Anymore today. This has been actually a really hard month for me. I'm really struggling.
It is. Yeah.
I lost my livelihood because of stalking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's ongoing for
Current.
over a decade.
Current.
Yeah. And there's not a lot of recourses I have.
Excuse me. No, there's nothing that you can do. In these cases, there's absolutely nothing that you can do. You have to have so much proof in order to even... I have some anecdotal proof, and I'm not going to get into what it is. No, absolutely not.
Because that's personal.
Yeah.
And it was very personal things. So I just...
But still, the amount of cases just like yours, just like this...
I feel very violated.
Yeah.
And the loss of my livelihood has been heartbreaking to me because I don't know, I took a lot of pride in it.
Right.
It is very hard to make a living as an artist, but I took care of my family.
Yeah.
And now I can't. And I don't know what to do. And so I will do business time. Hey, do you want to support this podcast? You should check out our Patreon. Mm-hmm. It is cool. And there are many episodes there. And we are back from our hiatus. We are posting there regularly. I will have an episode coming up on a catfishing case, which is actually going to be our next month's theme. But this one is just so bizarre. And so I just, I wanted to do it for Patreon first to kind of give you guys a little teaser for our upcoming catfishing month, which is what we're going to do next month. I just felt like announcing the theme
That's
early.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. This month kind of went by pretty quick already.
It really did.
Yeah, it's already mid-month and it's like...
I can't think about that. Time's weird and then I will throw up.
Yep.
Okay, so if you want to send us a little love on coffee, please go ahead. Can use a little love.
Email Lillian if you want to help.
And for anybody who ever has, let me tell you, I can't. I don't want to cry because I've just been crying for like a week and a half. But I love you, thank you, and it touches me deeply. Your guys' support has meant a lot to me. Your messages have meant a lot to me. Again, if I owe you art, and it was on Facebook because it would have been purchased over Facebook.
Right.
Please message me. I have no Facebook. It is in the under appeals, but I am not hopeful because I know what was posted. I am banned for life. That includes my Instagram, which really sucks because there are pictures on there of my kids I will never get back of when they were babies.
Right.
And so I don't want to talk about it. Anyway, join our Patreon.
And Discord.
Please.
It's
come
a happy
talk to me.
place.
Yes, despite me crying and boo-hooing, I try not to do that. Well, there's a channel for it, so if you don't want to see me cry, don't go in there. But I want to see your pets. I want to see what you made for dinner. And please, I have no memes now.
Meme us to death, please.
Yes, I have a Twitter, but I don't think I'm going to use it.
I just can't.
Well, I'm using it, but I'm using it for something else. And so never mind.
Yeah. I just can't take it seriously. It's called X now. And I just...
it's extreme.
Yeah. Every time
I
see it, I'm like, X gonna give it to you. We gonna give it to you. X gonna give it to you.
And he's just not. I'm not going to let him give it to me.
No, Elon Musk.
If you are listening to this on YouTube, I like a comment. I like a thumbs up. I like a subscribe.
We enjoy it.
If you're listening and you're not on YouTube, could you just go over there and do it anyway? Make your kid do it. I don't know. I feel like YouTube's a kid place. I know a lot of people
use YouTube. I don't use it for podcasts, but...
No, I listen... What do I use it for? Oh,
a lot of my friends do.
Okay, I'll confess what I use it for. I listen to Warhammer 40k lore videos like a fucking nerd.
Wow.
Meow.
Wow.
Hey, it's a very horny, silly game.
I binge all of the celebrity drama on YouTube. I fucking love
you get no room.
Celebrity drama.
If you like celebrity drama, we're doing it, and that's the tea on Patreon on it real soon.
Yes. And I'm really excited to just spill my guts about all of this stuff that I've been collecting in my head. I'm spilling the celebrity.
Oh, see, that's what we like. That's what we like.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
I'm going to title it.
Yeah.
Anyway, hey, if all you can do in support this podcast is listen, please know how grateful we are. We appreciate it. And our numbers are good again.
We love you in a very disgusting way.
Oh, it's the grossest way. Yes, it's uncomfortable. Inappropriate.
Love you.
Wow, I got to go. Yucky. It was I say. Anyway, bye.
Good night.
us on your social media platform of choice. Linktree/cruelty has all of the links. Check out our Patreon for exclusive episodes, merch, ad-free episodes, live ghost hunts, and much more. Please be sure to subscribe. New episodes are uploaded weekly. Thank you so much. See you next time. Music and production by Libby.